I would hear footsteps running up and down my stairs outside of my bedroom. I would wake up freezing cold with a deep feeling of dread and a figure at the foot of my bed.
Hello. This story will be about a Ouija board experience. Don't try to play with it even if you know the rules, even if you think you're safe. Sometimes you could encounter things that have more power than you could imagine and change your life from that point forward. Or this might just be a story for some of you, but if you don't have enough respect for it, it might become your next reality. Let's begin with our program, What Crawls in the Nights. So this happened many years ago, in 2019. I was over at a friend's house. We had a good amount of people to play with their Ouija board, maybe 5 or so. I want to preface this by mentioning the board we were using was used before to summon the well-known Ouija demon known as Zozo by the person who owned the board. They supposedly sold their souls to Zozo, the demon, to protect them from the biggest fears they had, which was being in a car crash or something similar to do with cars in that way. Anyways, we started playing. We circled the board with the planchette to warm the board up and began asking questions. It began to answer, responding yes to if there was a spirit with us, and answering basic questions such as its name, how old it was, and how it died, which it gave answers to. I believe the first spirit had answered hospital. The group I was playing with began to ask dumb and all too playful questions and not taking it too seriously, even making fun of me when I got mad at them for not being serious about it, so I stopped playing with them after a while. I remember their non-serious nature went on for a while, but as they continued to ask questions, they all had gone silent and had seemed to become entranced by the board, deeply focusing and having a very, very long session with it. I had turned out mostly at this point, hanging out with my other friend on the couch who had also not opted into this session. This wasn't that I wasn't interested in playing. I just had no tolerance for the group not taking the game seriously, as I've always experienced paranormal things since I was a baby, and every single one of my households I had lived in prior, and I was really sensitive to the paranormal. This was my first experience with the board before I was followed by something. I asked to borrow the Ouija board, and my friend gave me permission. This marks the next time I played the board, which this is going to be very dumb and cliche, but the day was Friday, the 13th, and I decided on playing in Cal Anderson Park in Capitol Hill in Seattle. My friend and I took the board to the park, and I managed to find a few strangers to play with. My next mistake. We sat down and circled the board. I took to asking the questions. The spirit I managed to contact began to give me random letters, as opposed to the previous session having clear English written out. I asked if this was Latin, as I knew if the board began speaking Latin, you're supposed to end the session. It answered yes. Then I asked if it was a negative spirit. It answered yes. Then, this was my next mistake, I asked it permission if I could end the session. It told me no, then began to circle the board in wide circles. I got really uncomfortable and tried to push the planchette to goodbye, and a strong force pushed against the planchette, not allowing me to pull it to goodbye. I did manage to push it to goodbye after some more force, and told the spirit it was not allowed to contact me again. I cut contact with the session and flipped the board, believing the session was cut off, but left with a deep feeling of dread in my stomach, like something wasn't right. And that feeling was correct. My ex and I kept the board at his house and his shed for some time after that, because when we kept it in his house, strange things would happen, such as footsteps, doors closing and open, knocks underneath the floor, his doorknob wiggling, and other strange things. We returned the board to the original owner after this, the one who had summoned Zozo with it. We didn't want it around anymore, and the owner had wanted it back. After all of this, a spirit followed me home. I would hear footsteps running up and down my stairs outside of my bedroom. I would wake up freezing cold with a deep feeling of dread and a figure at the foot of my bed. One night, there was a heavy banging noise in the garage, which my parents blamed on me, to which I frantically responded, "See? Something isn't right." Something followed me home from that Ouija board session. They began believing me more that night after the banging. I was so scared during this time that I sprinkled salt around my bed and doorframe, smudged with white sage. Before I knew it, it was close practice. I slept with crosses and a Bible on my bedside table and prayed to God every night. I became extremely spiritual around this time because I honestly had no idea what else to do or where to turn. I just wanted the haunting to stop. One morning, my ex and I heard my mom knock on my bedroom door and ask us, "Why are you guys sleeping still?" And he got aggravated at my mom waking us up so early. I checked the time and it was 7 a.m., which is really unlike my mom to be wondering why we were still asleep at that time. When we went upstairs, a bit annoyed, to ask her about it, she was on FaceTime with my sister's kids in the living room and had no idea what I was talking about. My mom isn't the type to prank me like that or lie, and she was really busy with a FaceTime call at the time it happened. I honestly think back and wonder if whatever asked us why we were still sleeping was mimicking my mom, or was an entirely different woman's voice, and we had just chalked it up being my mom, since that's the only lady in the house. The thought still makes me sick, honestly. The person who owned the board, who summoned demons with it, was also extremely troubled and ended up committing suicide a year or two after I stopped being friends with them. I haven't touched a Ouija board since, and the experience left me with some trauma. I still sleep with the lights on. I still do continue as with my pendulums, tarot cards, practiced with gems, and praying to God every night. But I never touched the board again, and I never will. The concept interests me still, And the fact I did such a profound experience, I'm not sure if I'm morbidly lucky to have had. I'm just glad that thing that had followed me home stopped contact after some time. I don't know if it was before my friend committed suicide or after, but I'm relieved it stopped. Well, guys, this is today's story about a Ouija board experience. Hope you guys liked it. If you guys did, remember, like the video, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll be uploading more of these videos. And remember, don't ignore the sounds tonight. You've already awakened it. Good night, and don't let the bedbugs bite.